Hello, readers. Meg Gardiner is the author of 16 acclaimed best-selling novels, a 3-time champion on Jeopardy, and 2-time president of Mystery Writers of America. Her newest book, co-authored with Oscar-nominated and Emmy-winning director Michael Mann, is Heat 2. That would be the sequel of Mann's 1995 crime thriller Heat, starring Al Pacino, Robert Deniro, Val Kilmer, and more. Meg, thank you for the time. How you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing really well. Gonna be honest with you, Heat is one of my all-time favorite movies. So when the opportunity arose to get to speak with you about the book sequel for this excellent movie, I jumped at the opportunity. Now, before we get into the details of the book itself, I'm curious, how did you link up with Michael Mann to co-author this book with him?
Well, he had been thinking about the Heat universe, so to speak, for a long time, since even before the movie was, premiered in 1995, and had always wanted to expand the story, which he saw as much bigger than just the sliver that was presented on the screen. And we have the same literary agent. So when he found out that I was around, he read my novel Unsub and then asked to talk to me about collaborating to write the novel. So we hashed it out and wrangled the story. He had the concept, he had the major ideas for the prequel and the sequel sections of the novel. So we hashed out everything to put it together in the most compelling way possible that we thought we could, make the characters' lives become as vivid on the page as they had been on the screen, and draw readers further into the world of master thief Neil McCauley and relentless homicide detective Vincent Hanna, and people like Chris Chihurlis, played by Val Kilmer in the film, and the crew and their families, their lovers, and everybody who gets pulled into the massive flow of the criminal underworld.
And just to help those who are listening or watching right now and don't remember the specific character names and who played them, Macaulay was played by Robert De Niro. Vincent Hanna was the Pacino character. Chris was Val Kilmer. Forgetting his name now. He's a great actor. He's Angelina Jolie's dad.
John Voight played Nate, the fixer and fence.
Yes.
Danny Trejo is the wheelman.
Trejo, yep, that's his.
Yes.
They just took his last name and made that the character's name.
Exactly. I mean, it's perfect as is. So just call the character Trejo as well. Michael T. Williamson is one of Hannah's detectives, as is Wes Studi, and Ted Levine, just a wonderful cast. Natalie Portman, in one of her very first roles, is Hannah's stepdaughter in the movie. So Ashley Judd plays Chris's wife, Charlene, and
AKA Cinnamon.
Pardon?
AKA Cinnamon.
Well, yes, as we find out in the novel, as we learn more about her and her background.
That's right. Yeah, it's interesting to look at the history of the movie itself and just Michael Mann really thinking about this series. This is something that he tried to turn into a TV series, I want to say, back in the late 70s or early 1980s. Some of the characters in the film, specifically Hannah and Macaulay, are based on real life figures from the 1950s and 60s. Was the prequel idea something that he was kicking around in his own head long before y'all ever really got together to come up with Heat 2?
I'm sure it was. He came up with the idea for Heat by talking to some close friends of his who were detectives on the Chicago Police Force, which is where Michael grew up, and found out the story of how one of them Chuck Adamson had met up with a bank robber and had coffee with him in the early 60s, and they developed a grudging respect for each other, while acknowledging that they were on opposite sides of the law, and that either, if they ever came face to face again, they might gun each other down, which is something like that eventually happened. So that became a focal point for the idea for the film. But of course, for the film, Michael had he had actually written extensive biographies for the major characters, which did not appear in the script, but he gave this background material to the actors so that they could inform their performances by knowing where their characters had come from, how they had grown up, how great or terrible or extremely terrible their childhoods had been, how they had ended up in Vietnam or prison or a combination of the two, and then ended up joining the police or making a life of crime. So all that material was available to me, and it was a treasure trove when we came to working out the story for the novel.
Yeah, if I'm recalling correctly, Vincent Hanna's background, his bio appeared in part 2. Is that something where you didn't even have to do a whole lot of work? You were just able to take from what Michael had given to the actors back in the mid 1990s?
Well, when I say there were background materials, it wasn't like a tome for the actors to have to do homework, but it was 10, 15, type pages for them to read through. And we expanded on that in the novel and tried to dramatize as much of it as we could. And so it's not just a dry recitation of statistics or a resume, but stories that place the characters in their world. But it was great. It was absolutely great to have all that background.
So for people who are hearing about this book for the first time now, where does Heat 2 pick up, and what is the story being told?
Heat 2 starts the day after the movie ends, when there has been a massive shootout on the streets of Los Angeles between Neil McCauley's crew and the LAPD after a bank robbery goes bad. And Chris Shiherlis, Val Kilmer's character, is the last survivor of the crew, and he is near dead from a gunshot wound, desperate to escape Los Angeles because he knows that Vincent Hanna, Al Pacino, is closing in on him and wants nothing more than to capture or kill him. So it picks up almost with the dust still rising from their feet after the movie, and find out, Chris knows that if he's going to stay alive and if he's going to protect his family, he has to get out of Los Angeles and out of the United States and have no contact with them for a long time, which is a desperate and heart ripping thing for him. But he understands that if he doesn't move immediately, that they are all going to be ruined or dead. So that kicks it off, and then it moves back to the late 80s when Macaulay's crew is living large, taking big scores, having daring raids, and basically being having a lot of swagger and carrying off some great heists. And Hanna is a homicide detective in Chicago hunting a brutal home invasion crew. So Michael really wanted to set up and of course he had come to the project with these big ideas already firmly in place in his mind of how he wanted to build out the story. So he wanted to start it back there, immediately dropping into action, to showing these people in the middle of their lives, an earlier stage of their life, and have those two threads running along side by side, so that the crew and the cops don't quite intersect, but there's some cross-pollination that ends up creating havoc later down the line. And then the story jumps forward to 1996, when Chris has escaped to South America. He's in Paraguay. He is in exile. He's isolated in a crazy foreign city, which is a free trade zone, Ciudad del Este, on the border with Argentina and Brazil. And it is a shopper's paradise and a criminal's paradise, and which he finds out that everything is out in the open, all the money laundering, all the counterfeiting, all the all the software poaching is weapons sales, terrorism camps are all right out in the open, run by people who were regarded as, the fathers of the city, the mothers of the city, people who don't regard themselves as being evil or criminal in any major way. This is just commerce in the ultimate free enterprise zone. So Chris finds this a disorienting and yet very exciting and freeing environment. And he knows if he's ever going to get back to his family, he has to take the risk to make something of himself in this world beyond just working security at a mall for one of the local families. So it jumps to there. It goes back to the U.S.-Mexican border, where Neil's crew in 1988 takes down a score against a cartel stash house on the border. It moves forward then eventually to 2000, to the new millennium in Los Angeles and Southeast Asia, where all the threads are pulled together. So your basic question a minute ago was, how did we do all this? That's what a lot of drafts are for when you're writing a novel, is to have the story all in your head and figure out how to switch back and forth between the timelines so that you create as much suspense and drama as possible in one, and then switch at the right moment to leave readers satisfied yet dangling a bit, and to jump straight into another storyline that is equally compelling and dramatic, so they don't feel that they are losing ground or losing any sense of momentum. But that takes a lot of talking between authors, moving scenes around, deciding where it's best to cut and jump back and forth. But that's the fun of writing a novel.
I would imagine there are some similarities with cliffhanger television episodes, which I think at the end of part 2, you did a good job of jumping to the present day in South America, where you left the 1988 story at a place where the reader, or at least me as the reader, is really looking forward to seeing what happens next. But I'm going to have to wait. Could be 50, 80, 100 more pages to find that out. But I'm sure there's going to be some great stuff in the meantime,
Well, good. I'm glad you think so. And yes, it does have similarities with television episodes. And of course, Michael Mann got his start in writing as a television writer. He wrote some of the earliest episodes of Starsky and Hutch. He created Miami Vice and Crime Story, and he knows exactly how to propel a story dramatically through a screenplay or a teleplay. And there's no difference as far as story structure, really, when you're moving to a novel on the page. So he knows exactly how to build a story. Learning how to write a novel takes is a different set of skills, but for an accomplished writer such as he is, that it didn't take much. It just took learning how to flex some new muscles.
Now, were you mostly responsible for the character dialogue in this book?
Oh no, I think it was a mix. Okay. And I mean, Michael wrote the screenplay for Heat,
right?
So the dialogue in the film is his. And now having recently gone to a screening of the film at the Tribeca Festival in New York, I will tell you that this gigantic theater was packed with some mega fans who kept shouting out the lines of dialogue before the film even started, while Robert De Niro and Al Pacino were on the stage doing an interview. People were screaming out lines of dialogue at them in the middle of the theater. So Michael knows how to write memorable dialogue, let's say that. But of course, there were big chunks of the book that, some chapters I would take a first crack at. So I had to learn how to work my way into the characters and learn their voices. And he was very helpful with that, with saying, take another look at the script and see how each character verbalizes what's inside him. Hannah is very sarcastic and verbose, and Macaulay is terse. If he'll say one word if that'll get it done, but if not, he'll just grunt. Some of the others, have very melodious voices, and so that helped me just kind of put myself in their heads and in their minds. But again, rewrites are wonderful things. So when someone sends you back a note saying we don't have their voice yet, you can take another crack at it.
Well, that's what I was going to ask about it, because, the final product shows that y'all nailed the voices. I mean, I could hear Al Pacino's voice in my head with pretty much every Hannah line, and it's stuff that you got used to in the movie itself. Same with Macaulay, same with the subdued Chris character, and a lot of the other characters that people will be familiar with from the movie itself. So there was a lot of note taking. There were rewrites. You read through the original transcripts itself. I'm assuming that you watched the movie once or twice to try and get a good feel for things.
Maybe once or twice or 90 times. Yeah. I was already a fan, though, so that is that was not troublesome. I mean, and that the movie stands rewatching endlessly. I never tire of it, so it was an opportunity.
Was there any pressure, because we are in an era right now where we are seeing a lot of classic art recycled, and some being done in excellent ways, where you pay homage to the older thing while also trying to make the newer thing its own piece of art? And there is a balance there. There is a fine line where it goes from tasteful to tacky. Was that something that you were really cognizant of as you and Michael were completing this project, is making sure you got that balance just right?
Yes, I wouldn't call the line we walked wasn't tasteful versus tacky in our case. It was honoring the spirit of the original and knowing how not just how successful it had been, but how the reason it had been so successful was because the story is so dramatic and so powerful, and the characters are so vivid, and their clash is so monumental that the film the film reaches this epic climax. And the question then is, how can we make sure that expanding the story honors the characters, as well as really expanding their world in ways that is as dramatic, as emotionally affecting, as surprising and gripping as the film was. So, and certainly I felt a huge sense of responsibility taking on this project, because the film has become a classic. It has become iconic, and when you're sitting in a theater and realize people are screaming at Al Pacino lines from the film, that people love the original material, and I needed to honor who the characters were, and to make sure that the story really matched Michael's ambitions for the novel. So, but it was a privilege, and it was exhilarating and challenging and really wonderful.
How many times did you hear some Yahoo scream out "great ass" to Al Pacino at that screening?
I stopped counting.
Yeah, I was about to say that probably got old real fast.
The interesting thing, though, was after this massive theater in Manhattan was filled, did have a huge coterie of mega fans, and yet it became clear that there was a total, very much a very younger group of in the audience who had never seen it. Because at certain turning points in the film, a surprising turn of events occurs, and there was a mass gasp in the theater. And I said, okay, this is a whole new audience that is coming to this, and it's landing just as hard as it did when it first premiered.
Yeah, I showed the movie to a younger coworker a couple of years ago, and he was floored. So I was like you, I was very happy to see that it has stood the test of time. What was the part that floored people?
I don't think it's giving away spoilers at this point, but
No, if they haven't seen it by now, they've screwed up.
really, it's the moment toward the end of the film when Hannah walks into his hotel room, and everybody is so involved with thinking that he's blown, that the case is done, and he has perhaps failed, and he opens the bathroom door and he finds Natalie Portman in the bathtub having attempted suicide. So it's just this mass of blood in the bathtub, and he then has to drag her out and wrap up her wounds and raise her to the ER. But there was just this inhalation and just abject shock in the theater. So yeah.
I know it's not necessarily something that you're being forthright in asking the question, but did you hear from any of the cast from the movie itself who had read the book, who had good things to say about what Heat 2 did?
I haven't personally heard from the cast yet. I know that Val Kilmer gave an interview recently where he said that he would he thinks Michael should definitely make the movie of Heat 2, and that he loved working with him and would always love to work with him again. So
that's the next question there, Meg. Are there plans to make a movie out of Heat 2?
Well, would you be surprised to know that Michael Mann definitely has plans to make a movie out of Heat 2? He has spoken about this, and I know he would ideally love to have it on the big screen, and that's as much as I can say.
So yes, big screen, but at the same time, the big screen often doesn't do justice to the books themselves. And we're in an age where television can do a really good job of encapsulating, especially a book that is close to 500 pages long. I wonder if it wouldn't be better as a television series. But the other question I would have for him, because obviously these actors are all 30 years older than they were when this movie is made, is, are you considering using deepfake technology for Val Kilmer back in 1996? Are you going to cast younger actors for the Pacino and Deniro characters for the 1988 scenes? Like, how do you go about accomplishing that? Because that is maybe the biggest challenge with turning this into a movie.
Right. And you would have to ask Michael Mann himself. And I can't speak for him, but I have heard an interview with him recently where he said he did not want to use deepfake. It's not deepfake. He doesn't want to use de-aging technology on any actors to recreate that. But it's all yet to come. We shall see. And of course, he is brilliant at both films and television. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Tokyo Vice yet, which just premiered this year on HBO Max, but of course he knows exactly what he's doing in both mediums.
I've seen an ad for it. That's a Michael Mann vehicle.
It's he directed the first episode.
Oh, okay.
And he's the executive producer of it. So yeah.
I'll make sure to check that out. All right. I need to ask you a couple of questions about you and your career, because writing is actually your third career. You started out as an attorney after, I believe, running track at Stanford, getting your undergrad degree and then your law degree. What did you participate in track and field at Stanford?
I ran cross country, which is, 5K over hills and creeks and rutted gullies and through the bushes, and then in track I ran the 400 and 800 meters. So decided to just run in a circle and in a venue where I couldn't get lost.
Are you still a runner?
In my mind, I'm as fast as ever. My knees are telling me that I'm fooling myself.
That's understandable. As an attorney, what type of law did you practice?
Commercial litigation with a small firm in Los Angeles. So I was not a criminal attorney, but I certainly know the court system and like imagining what it's like for people caught up in it.
So regardless, how did serving as a lawyer help you in your career as a writer?
It helped terrifically. That's certainly, as a trial lawyer, you write all the time, which keeps those chops up. But you've got to remember that in every legal case that goes to court, it's a story. It's a narrative. It's a story about something that has gone wrong between two parties. And the lawyer's job is to write or tell that story to a judge, a jury, in the most compelling way possible, to convince and persuade them that your client deserves the outcome that you seek. So, I mean, that's a requirement of the canons of ethics for lawyers, to be a zealous advocate for your client. And writing really comes into that. You learn how to be persuasive. You also learn that when you switch to writing novels, that if you totally tank it for some reason and get the story wrong, nobody's going to lose money. Nobody's going to go to jail. Nobody's going to have a judgment entered against them and have their house foreclosed on. So you can do whatever you want, and while sleeping easy at night, knowing that your client's not going to get dragged away.
So the second career was teaching writing at UC Santa Barbara. What a beautiful campus to get to walk around on a daily basis for you. And I'm sure the students were very engaging as well. For anybody who is considering getting into writing or is writing right now, but it hasn't clicked for them just yet, like what are some of your biggest keys for becoming a successful writer?
Persistence.
Yeah.
Develop your craft. Read everything that you can get your hands on. Certainly, if you want to write in any kind of a genre, read widely. Read beyond what you think you might be interested in. Figure out what you love and why, and what you don't love or think a book or a movie or TV show, why you think it doesn't work. Start learning how to analyze it, and write. Just write as much as you can. You might want to take an adult ed class. You might want to take a college class. You might want to do workshops, join a writer's group if that'll help you get the words down on the page. But learn how to sit yourself down and finish your stuff. That's the basic thing. Finish your stuff. Learn how to get from the beginning to the end, whether that's a short story, flash fiction that's 1,000 words long, an epic fantasy novel, or what, and know that it's a process. I mean, when I switched from law to the idea that I was going to write fiction, I thought it was going to be a snap, because I'd been writing every day at work. And I quickly learned that novels are a different, it's like switching sports. You have to learn new skills and retrain your muscles to learn a new discipline. So don't be afraid to fail, experiment, but again, finish your stuff. And if it's not where it needs to be, write more stuff.
All right. I'm sure you've talked about this ad nauseum, but you were a 3-time Jeopardy champ back in the late 80s. Not just that, but your daughter either appeared or won Jeopardy a couple years ago.
Yep.
Was her participation on that show, was it perpetuated by the fact that her mom won Jeopardy 3 different times?
We haven't really delved into that in any kind of deep mother-daughter way, but I have to think that it was a spur to her. And yes, she was a Jeopardy champion as well. She was one of the last people who actually appeared with Alex Trebek. Just a couple of weeks. He only went on another couple of weeks after she taped her episodes.
He is an all-time great. Is he as sweet a person in real life as he is, or as he was watching him on the television screen?
Absolutely. He was so personable. He was warm with the contestants, always trying to reassure us and encourage us, and let us know that everything was going to be fine, have a good time. And it was really a wonderful opportunity to share the stage with him.
So how confident were you in each of those 3 episodes that you won that you were going to be able to pull it off?
Oh, I was never confident. I was just like a barracuda, though, just determined.
Locked in, ready to hit that buzzer, answer that next question.
Exactly. Because you're up against people who are, who are also great players, and you just, it's a contest, and you just gotta strategize and hit the buzzer and don't give like wrong, crazy answers, and then bet wisely when you get to Final Jeopardy.
So not only did you win a nice chunk of change for your 3 victories, you got second place in that 4th try, which led to a stay at Beaver Creek Resort in Vail, Colorado. I'm assuming
Yeah,
Jeopardy is not skimping on the digs if they send you to Vail, Colorado.
it was a fantastic ski vacation, and I waited too long to book it, and then I was 7 months pregnant by the time we got to go, so I didn't get to learn how to ski. But my husband certainly enjoyed it, and I got a lot of reading done in the snow.
That is fair. And last question, I guess, for you, Meg. For anybody who is just now finding out about this book, is maybe considering purchasing it, what do you love about Heat 2?
It is a pedal to the metal standalone thriller that with amazing characters on all sides of the law, great drama, finding out about these people's wants, fears, longings, their loves, their tragedies, their triumphs, a lot of twists and some amazing action set pieces. So if you have ever seen a Michael Mann movie, you know how well he does action set pieces. And I got to write more of them with him. And I think you will love reading them as much as I loved writing them.
Great answer there. She is Meg Gardiner. The new book, co-authored with Michael Mann, is Heat 2. You can get it now wherever books are sold. Meg, thank you so much for the time today, and thank you for this very entertaining book.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks to Gentleman Jesus for the intro and outro music. Hear more of his work at gentlemanjesus.com. Thanks to you for checking us out. You can watch, listen, learn, and connect for free at booksonpod.com. For Books on Pod, I'm Trey Elling. Good day.